were an obscure and neglected sub-field of expertise among a very limited set of scholars. Narcissists and psychopaths are very hateful and difficult patients. They do not yield to authority, nor do they improve with treatment. So they are very disappointing and resilient subjects, both for study and for therapy. And so psychiatrists, psychologists, and therapists tend to avoid narcissists and psychopaths. In 1995, there has been nothing, absolutely nothing written about this disorder, with the exception of one or two books. And so I had to do, I have to start everything from scratch. And I've spent the last 20 years studying both disorders, coming up with a vocabulary that is widely used today, actually, and suggesting insights, some of them accepted, some of them rejected, with regards to these two afflictions. I have written several books, the most well-known of which I believe is Malignant Self-Love, Narcissism Revisited. But I've written other books as well about personality disorders. And I have corresponded and observed thousands of narcissists, people diagnosed officially with narcissistic personality disorder, and with hundreds of thousands of family members, neighbors, colleagues, bosses, co-workers, you name it. So by now I probably have, it would be safe to say that I have the largest database with regards to these aliens among us.
For sure. That's fascinating, Sam. And one question that comes to my mind listening back to you then was, how and why did you go to get a formal diagnosis in the first place? Is this something that you'd noticed the traits of narcissism and psychopathy in yourself, or had someone else mentioned them to you? I've
been coerced twice into evaluation. Once by my then fiancé, who had the wits and the intelligence to bail out. And second time in prison, I did time for securities fraud. And as a condition for parole, I had to commit myself to psychiatric evaluation. So on both occasions, the verdict of narcissistic personality disorder was rendered in conjunction with one or two other personality disorders. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, I participated in a documentary titled I, Psychopath, in which quite publicly I was diagnosed with psychopathy. They used a test called the PCLR, a test concocted by one Robert Thayer. And while there's a serious debate about the validity of the test, for instance, it is not accepted by the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual Committee, which is the body of orthodoxy in psychiatry, but still, it's indicative. And so it would be safe to say that I'm a psychopathic narcissist after all these luminaries have poured over my record and myself multiply. Mm-hmm. But I've been coerced into it, and that's an important question actually what you've asked. I've been coerced into evaluation and coerced into treatment and therapy. You see, prior to being confronted with my diagnosis, I was completely unself-aware. I would have found it pretty funny had you suggested to me that something's wrong with me. I would have thought that you are dim-witted. I would have ascribed pernicious and paranoid motives and motivations to you for having said it, for having suggested that something's wrong with me. I would have blamed everyone and anything for my misfortunes and defeats and so on. And we call this whole thing alloplastic defenses. Alloplastic defenses, better known as external locus of control, means simply that narcissists and psychopaths, before they become self-aware, and some of them do, I'm an example, but before they become self-aware, psychopaths and narcissists tend to blame everyone and everything for the mishaps and the misfortunes and the downfalls in their lives. They can do nothing wrong, nor do they ever do anything wrong. Everyone else is to blame. The boss is envious of them. Their co-workers are jealous of them and undermine them. No one appreciates them properly. The universe is badly designed. God is to blame. Society, the increasing stupidity of the populace, you name it. the waiter, the cabbie, everyone. It was, with one exception, the narcissist himself. And this is called alloplastic defense, a defense mechanism which shifts the blame and the responsibility and the attendant guilt feeling to the outside in order to avoid an inner conflict.
I think we all know people who don't accept blame themselves and blame other people for things that are going on in their life and struggle to take responsibility. But what percentage of the population are actually, I guess, clinically narcissists or psychopaths? Is this a big amount, or is this a very small minority?
According to the latest edition of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, published in June 2013, last year, about a year and something ago, about 1% of the population would qualify as suffering from narcissistic personality disorder. But this is obviously a massive underestimate. And the reason that it is an underestimate is that narcissists rarely subject themselves either to psychological testing or to a therapeutic setting. So it's very difficult to come across narcissists in a scholarly environment or in a therapeutic environment. And so narcissism is heavily and massively underestimated. Not so psychopathy. Psychopathy or antisocial personality disorder, I believe, is pretty well measured. The prevalence and the incidence of antisocial personality disorder, I believe, is accurately reflected in the literature. And the reason is very simple. Many psychopaths end up in jail, end up in prison. So there they are subjected to compulsory evaluations, assessments, and sometimes therapy. Indeed, Robert Hare, the father and mother of the modern study of psychopathy, is actually a prison psychiatrist. His bulk of his career he had spent in prisons where he studied this population. But narcissists are a lot more insidious, a lot more stealth, a lot more. They act by proxy. They are great. They have great thespian skills. They're great actors. They know how to adapt themselves so that they appear to be socially acceptable pillars of the community. Indeed, many of them climb up the corporate ladder, or politics, or show business, or the judiciary, or law enforcement, or the clergy, and end up in positions of authority.
Sam, let's dive into that a little bit further then, because that 1% that you said was an underestimate. I thought that was quite a high number,
yes,
not knowing as much about it as you, obviously. And 1% would suggest that most people would definitely know someone who's narcissistic, but if it's higher than that, then it's likely that either family members or definitely people that you work with, if you work in a big organization, are going to be afflicted with this. So if we look at a stereotypical organization now, so they can relate this to their workplace, are we talking about management that are more likely to be narcissistic, or is it likely to be the CEOs of company, or is it salespeople? Is there a specific part of the company that tends to have more narcissistic people than others?
With your kind permission, before I answer your question, I would like to make two comments. One, narcissism is only partly a mental health diagnosis, a mental health construct. It is equally influenced by culture and society. It is what we call a culture-bound syndrome. Mm-hmm. It tends to increase in societies which are narcissistic or which reward narcissism. So societies which would place emphasis on individualism, on ambition, on trampling on other people, Darwinistic societies. Societies which would emphasize competition and ruthlessness and so on and so forth would tend to reward narcissists. And in these societies, people would become narcissistic. Indeed, there is a suggested diagnosis by Professor Millman of Harvard University, situational narcissism. Narcissism which is provoked and engendered by circumstances. So this is comment number one. In societies such as the United States, for instance, countries such as the United States, it would stand to reason that narcissism is more prevalent, more visible, and more widespread than in, let us say, Japan, which is a collectivist society. That's one thing. Second comment I would like to make: narcissism or pathological narcissism is rarely diagnosed alone. It is usually comorbid. In other words, it's diagnosed with other mental health disorders, mood disorders, other personality disorders, and so on. So one comes across narcissists whose main complaint or whose main syndrome or symptom is not narcissism. Prime example would be borderline personality disorder, which is extremely accentuated narcissistic dimensions. So narcissism is not an isolated phenomenon. I think a good case can be made that pathological narcissism is the foundation of myriad other mental health problems. So these are the two comments. As to your question, narcissists tend to gravitate towards positions of authority because there they can exercise power and extract, not to say extort, narcissistic supply, attention, adulation, admiration from their surroundings, human surroundings. They need this input of narcissistic supply. It is